A very good day to you, all my followers out there. We are saying hello from France, and I probably should have started with a bonjour, but I didn't want to do that cliche introduction because today we are testing for the first time the brand new Dacia Bigster. It's a big step up for Dacia in terms of product lineup and as a finite product, and we're going to talk about everything you need to know about the new C-segment SUV from the Romanian car maker, a car that's supposed to take it to a whole new level in the future. So it's very important because the C-segment SUV is right now the biggest in Europe. It's the biggest, the fastest growing, and you cannot claim you are a reputable car manufacturer if you don't have a car right now in this segment. So this is what the Bigster is setting out to do. It's setting out to bring new profits for Dacia, a whole new level of customer, and it is actually building on the very successful recipe of the Duster. What Dacia managed to do with the Duster is prove that for the right price, people will buy your product. The same goes for the Sandero, if you will, if you offer a great balance between the bare essentials and a very good price tag. So let's dive into what the Bigster is proposing. As you can probably tell from its design, it has been created on the same platform as the Duster. It uses the CMF-B platform, and that's shared with a number of Renault models. But what the Bigster is, well, you can find it in its name. It's just a bigger Duster for those who need the extra room. You will see a number of similarities between it and the Duster, but also a number of differences. In terms of exterior design, the front end is basically the same. We have the same Y-shaped headlamps over here with LED technology for them, the same grille without chrome, and so on and so forth. But once you step to the side, you will notice that there has been a massive increase in terms of size. So the Bigster is 23 centimeters longer than the Duster. Whereas the Duster is 4 meters and 34 centimeters in length, the Bigster is 4 meters and 57. And about 5 centimeters of those can be found in the wheelbase. So yeah, it is considerably bigger than the Duster. You can also get bigger wheels for it because it's a bigger car and you kind of need it to some extent. So the range starts at 17-inch wheels, then goes up to 18s for the higher spec models like Journey or Extreme, and you can get optional 19-inch wheels as well, like the ones we have here wrapped in Michelin tires. We still have the same materials used on the outside. For example, Starkle, which is this plastic material over here that you can find on a number of areas on the car. This is basically recycled plastic that has been injected with dye in order to make it look like this without having to repaint it in case of an accident. And compared to the Duster, we do have a slightly different design for the front doors with this layout right here. Another interesting plus the Bigster brings to the table is this new color, indigo blue, as well as the possibility of buying the car with a two-tone finish. As you can notice, the roof line is black, whereas the body of the car is blue. Now, moving to the side, you will also notice the fact that this D pillar, the last pillar, has this Bigster emblem on it. Of course, it's telling of the car's name, and of course around the back we have a new trim right above the license plate holder. And for the first time, the Dacia introduced a electrically operated tailgate, and once that's open, takes a while, you notice the boot. The boot is also quite big, 702 liters up to this boot cover over here, which is a 300-liter increase compared to the Duster. We also have some extra room under the floor, some anchor points, and U-clip, the technology Dacia unveiled on the Duster. Basically, you can buy accessories and hook them up to this over here to, I don't know, accessorize your car. Let me just give you an example. You can see this lamp over here, right? This is hooked up to U-clip, and you can take it out, recharge it, and so on. So you can move this to any other area inside the car, and there are a number of accessories for this system already available. Furthermore, the rear bench is a 40-20 split, 40-20-40, and you can actually fit items that are up to 2.7 meters long in the back of this car. You can fold the seats using these levers over here. So quite a practical car, as Dacia got us used to. Now, hopping inside, you will also notice the extra room, because that's what the Bigster is all about. But in terms of build quality materials, they are still using very cheap plastic on the door cards. At the end of the day, though, this is probably the cheapest C-segment SUV you can buy in Europe right now, so you can't really expect it to have very nice feeling materials everywhere. Now, as for the seats, they are done in TAP Micro Cloud. That's the stain-resistant material Dacia introduced a while back, and textile finish up top. And an interesting thing you're gonna notice is that we have two ISOFIX points, one on each side of the car, using zippers, so you won't lose any covers or anything. Hopping inside, it's a quite a big lip over here. This door lip, this door sill lip is quite big, but the room the Bigster offers is absolutely huge. The driver's seat is adjusted in my comfortable driving position. I'm 6 feet tall, and there's no issues whatsoever. The same goes for headroom. No issues whatsoever for myself, and I am a averagely tall person, you could say. Even though we do have this panoramic sunroof on this car, which is also a premiere for the Dacia brand, because we only had a sunroof, a partially opening sunroof on the Sandero before, but not on the Duster, and since the Bigster is brand new, we just got it on this car. We also have air vents over here for the rear passengers, something you don't get on the on the Duster, and another U-clip accessory, as you can see, hooked up over here. We do have two USB-C charging ports down there, which are new also, and a transmission tunnel. And one of the party tricks of the Bigster is the fact that you can actually fold this central seat, and you get some kind of armrest over here, even though you do have direct access to the boot, but you do have cup holders and some smartphone holders over here. It could be useful on a longer trip. Now let's hop inside in the front. The same materials used on the door cards over here, but we do have soft touch materials on the armrest, which is a plus, but I think this is only available on the Journey models, like the one we have over here. These are the front seats, and for the first time ever, of course, we have electrically adjustable seats. I mean, that's wrong. It's just the driver's seat that's electrically adjustable, and only in terms of height and for the backrest, because the depth is adjusted manually, as you can see. The same material is used, and they are quite comfortable. And this is the layout of the dashboard, quite similar to what we have on the Duster, but there are some novelties over here. For example, this high arm console. This is an optional feature, and you can also get it as standard on the Journey models, like the one we have. This is cooled, and you have configurable cup holders over here. Furthermore, you have the parking brake, gear shift lever, and a wireless charging port, which is once again standard on Journey, but you cannot get it on other models. This is a area for charging your phone, right? Two USB-C chargers. You can actually connect your phone to the car's infotainment system using a wire, or you can do it wirelessly, like we are connected right now with my phone. Android Auto is displayed wirelessly on this 10.1-inch screen over here, which comes as standard. However, the big news is the fact that you can now also have the Google Maps or Waze shown in the instrument cluster. This is a 10.1-inch instrument cluster. This doesn't come as standard. The standard one has only 7 inches, and you can have your Google Maps shown over here, which is pretty nice. What's weird is the fact that the car's onboard navigation, which uses here maps, cannot be shown in this instrument cluster. I can actually go through every single menu, and you can tell it doesn't this is everything you get, right? Okay, so that doesn't come as standard. As I said, on the base models you get a 7-inch screen, and for the first time ever we have adaptive cruise control on these cars, only on the Journey though. You cannot get adaptive cruise control on any other model. Right, so these are the physical buttons for the climate control. Once again, base models only get manual air conditioning and on one zone. If you have the Journey or Expression models, you can get 2-zone climate control. You can also get the heated steering wheel and a heated windshield. So that's pretty good. And compared to the Duster, we don't have the name of the car written over here anymore, but I don't think that's gonna be an issue. Yet another U-clip accessory over here. So overall, pretty big improvements compared to the Duster. In terms of powertrain choices, there are some very interesting changes done compared to the Duster. So under the hood you basically get 2 engine sizes, if you will. There's let's start with the one we're driving today. This is the brand new hybrid model, the full hybrid, using a 1.8 liter naturally aspirated engine combined with an electric motor, just like we've seen on a number of Dacia and Renault models in the past under the E-Tech badge. Only in the past we used to have a 1.6 liter under the hood, now we have a 1.8 liter. This engine has been derived from that 1.6 liter actually. It has a longer stroke, and that's how they got to the 1.8 liter engine size. And it now develops 107 horsepower compared to the 90 horsepower the previous generation had, the 1.6. But it's also naturally aspirated Atkinson cycle engine, so the demands on it are very low in order to keep it very efficient and to keep it very reliable. Now this engine is hooked up to a multimodal gearbox drivetrain. So basically what that means, as I explained on the Jogger hybrid and so on, is that you have an electric motor that can power the wheels, that has 50 horsepower and 205 Newton meters of torque, alongside hooked up to a transmission that's made up of 4 gears for the internal combustion engine and 2 for the electric motor. Now this gearbox also has an electric motor inside that can synchronize the internal combustion engine to the gearbox, so you don't have a clutch. And that electric motor is also responsible for turning on the ICE under the hood. It all sounds very complicated. It's really not. It's very easy to use, and it has been in production. This technology has been in production for quite some time. They only changed the internal combustion engine to make it more efficient in order to be compliant with the future EU laws regarding emissions. So in total, you can rely on 155 horsepower, an increase of about 15 horsepower compared to the 1.6 liter E-Tech, and 205 Newton meters of torque in total. Now, there's also a 1.2 liter 3-cylinder in the range that we've known from the Duster and so on. And that can be had with 130 horsepower, all of them are mild hybrid, by the way. And you can have it with 130 horsepower, a manual gearbox, and all-wheel drive, which is the same recipe we've had on the Duster for some time. But then there are 2 more options with 140 horsepower. There's a normal one, if you will, and there's an Eco G one. The Eco G is the more important in my book because it uses LPG. It's a recipe Dacia has been testing for a while. It is the premium car seller in Europe that offers LPG on its car. So you have a mild hybrid 1.2 liter 3-cylinder engine with LPG, which is in my book a premiere. I don't know if I've ever seen a hybrid LPG model offered by a company from the get-go. Basically the way they did it is they have 2 injector ramps, one with direct injection for petrol for the engine, and one on the side that is indirect with another set of 3 injectors for the LPG fuel. so it can switch between them, and I am very curious to drive it. 140 horsepower, 230 newton meters of torque. If we're talking about the changes done to this 140 horsepower version compared to the 130 horsepower version, an engineer told me last night at the official dinner that what they did was change the software for it, change the turbo and the cooling system, but that's it. The internals are the same. The cooling system is a bit improved to deal with the extra 10 horsepower, but the changes aren't all that big overall. Unfortunately, that 1.2 is only available with a manual gearbox, so that's gonna hurt Dacia, because a lot of people are just looking for an automatic gearbox. Well, there's good news in this area as well, because a lot of people have been asking for an all-wheel drive automatic version for the Duster, and they are working on it. They are working on such a setup, and even though they couldn't confirm all the details, in the future we will get an all-wheel drive version with the 1.2 liter engine under the hood, and an automatic gearbox, and an additional electric motor on the rear axle. So we'll have a sort of all-wheel drive system like we've seen on Toyotas for a long time, without a physical connection between the front and the rear axle through a shaft like it's happening right now. For the moment, we don't really know which kind of gearbox this setup will have, but I am betting on the EDC double clutch gearbox that Renault has in its spare parts bin. Now, we are driving the 1.8, and I have to tell you, it feels exactly the same as the 1.6 E-Tech. So the throttle response is instantaneous, but it's not that strong. So there's a separation between what you actually do with your right foot and how the car responds. You have initial throttle response, but it's not that powerful because you're only relying on the 50 horsepower motor under the hood. Around town, I'm pretty sure it will be adequate, but outside the city limits, it's going to depend on the speed you're doing. It's not a fast car, but I don't think that was the goal of the Bigster. The Bigster is supposed to be a spacious, efficient car, not necessarily one that will win some sort of rally anytime soon. So you will keep up with the traffic, you won't have any issues in that regard, but the gearbox does behave like a hybrid. It's to some extent it's close to a CVT setup, but I think it feels a bit more natural. The engine doesn't really bother you that much unless you really floor it, then you're gonna hear it, and it has a bit of a deeper note compared to the 1.6, and I think that's because of the different stroke, of course, but it is quite efficient, and I think that's going to be the main takeaway here, because yesterday on our trip from the airport to our lodging, we had an average fuel consumption of 5.3 liters per 100 kilometers covered, which is pretty good considering we've driven on the highway and some B roads. And I think around town this car will do about 5 liters per 100 kilometers covered, no issues whatsoever, but we'll have to test it out when we get our hands on it on a deeper, for a longer period of time. I am mostly curious about the 1.2 140 horsepower LPG version. I think that's going to be the best seller, despite the fact that it has a manual gearbox. In terms of suspension, I asked last night at the press conference, and they confirmed that it's the same suspension as on the Duster. It's just a different setup for the dampers. It feels roughly the same. The only difference I can notice is that this one seems a bit, just a tiny fraction stiffer, but I think that's because of the wheels. You see, the Bigster has 19-inch wheels as its biggest size, and we have the 19-inch wheels on this car, whereas the Duster only has 18-inch wheels. So because of that difference, I think this one translates a lot more of the road imperfections into the cabin, but otherwise they feel identical. But I did notice an improvement in terms of refinement on this car. It feels more it feels better insulated, more refined, and that was confirmed at the press conference last night. They told us they worked on this. The windscreen is thicker, the side windows are thicker in order to make the ride a lot quieter, and we have more sound insulation on board for the same reason. And I can actually feel it. They say on average the Bigster is 2 decibels They say on average the Bigster is 2 decibels quieter compared to the Duster, but they didn't tell us at which speed. The truth of the matter is we did notice that on our trip yesterday, before they told us that the Bigster is supposed to be a bit more quiet inside and more refined. So overall, I think this is a good car, and I think it's going to sell really well because a lot of people will be looking for a bargain in the C segment, which is the fastest growing in Europe and the biggest market share in Europe. It has 23% market share. Over 3 million cars were sold in this segment last year in Europe. So it's going to be a big, an important car for Dacia. Moving forward, this will be its flagship, if you will. All the new technology you can wish for will be launched on the Bigster. All the new technology Dacia has in store will be launched on the Bigster because it's the biggest and the most expensive car they have. But how much will it cost? Well, it will depend on the market. It will depend on where you live. They told us they aim to have a starting price of 25,000 euros at the most, no matter the market you're in. So for example, in Romania, where this car is being built, it has a starting price of 23,000 euros, but I'm guessing on certain markets that starting price will be higher. The most expensive version gets up to about 32,000 euros, like this Journey we have over here with the panoramic sunroof and every option ticked. So this is going to be the most expensive version you can get. But if you want a hybrid, prices start at 26,000 euros. So, given everything I've told you, how do you feel about the new Bigster? Please let me know in the comments below. And don't forget, of course, to like, share, and subscribe to keep this channel alive. Until next time, don't forget to feed your passions.